What's up, guys? It's Wes, the People's Pitmaster, back again with another episode of the Smoke Ring Syndicate. It's my weekly barbecue podcast that drops every Wednesday at 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This week, I've got a special guest from down in the bayou, Jay Ducote. Let's see if we can get him on the line. Hey, Jay, it's Wes.
Wes, what's happening, dude?
What's going on, man?
Living the dream, man. Living the dream.
I'm fairly certain that is the dream. Traveling, traveling, eating for a living.
Yeah, it's worked out pretty well for me to be able to eat and drink, and now also travel and do it for a living. Been a lot of different ways of getting there, but it's been fun.
Yeah. All right. And you pronounce your last name Ducote, right?
Ducote.
Ducote.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a hard E on the end because it's French.
Yeah. Well, I've got cousins that are Rishu, OUX at the end, and I was like, I feel like it's a hard E at the end, but I'm going to go Ducote. But just will kind of walk my listeners through kind of who Jay Ducote is and kind of where you started. You're chef. You're a two-time LSU graduate.
Yeah.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers, indeed. So that's really where a lot of the food stuff started for me, was tailgating for LSU football. That's how I learned how to cook and how to just feed people. You know, we were poor college kids trying to feed 100 or 200 fellow college students for tailgate parties, and that's how I learned to cook big cast iron cauldrons of jambalaya or red beans and rice or gumbo.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of my love for food and cooking and the joys of feeding people stems from those tailgate parties. I certainly cooked a lot with my dad at hunting and fishing camps in Louisiana and South Texas, and my both of my Cajun grandmothers cooked a lot, and so being in their kitchens, visiting them from holidays, or just seeing them fry catfish or cook a gumbo. Was certainly early food memories for me, but cooking really came from LSU tailgate parties. But I, as you said, I got 2 degrees. I got a bachelor's in economics and political science, and then a master's in political science. And I learned that I wanted nothing to do with politics for the rest of my life. I actually taught high school math and coached baseball for 2 years. Then I got a job working for the state doing policy research and grant writing. And I was stuck in a cubicle and I was bored out of my mind. And I started writing about food just really as a spare time hobby. It was the early days of food blogging. I didn't even realize I started a food blog until after I had done it. I was just like keeping an online food journal, and then then the whole blogging thing really took off in the early days of social media. And so I ran with that, and everywhere else that I've gone, it's kind of stemmed from starting that food blog in 2009.
Yeah, and as we know, we've seen you on Food Network a couple of times. Kind of walk me through your beginning with the Food Network.
Yeah, so the first show that I did was MasterChef on Fox. I was on season 2. I did not make it very far. It was an introductory to flying out to Los Angeles and filming a TV show. But that was MasterChef really billed itself almost as an American Idol for cooking. It was all amateur chefs, home cooks, backyard cooks. So I ended up getting cast on season 2 of that, and there were a lot of things that led to that, casting calls. I had to go to an audition in New Orleans. I thought I wasn't going to be able to make it because I was in the middle of a tailgate cook-off that was the same day, but I ended up being able to go. with a smoker strapped to the back of my truck and still billowing smoke driving down I-10 to New Orleans, and then I got cast on season 2 of MasterChef, but I didn't make it very far. I did a herb roasted rack of venison and a Cajun shrimp and cornbread stuffed bell pepper with a bourbon cream sauce. And pretty much the only thing that made national TV was me putting a big bottle of Knob Creek on the counter and Gordon Ramsay saying, "Have you been drinking that?" And I said, "Yeah, I had a couple shots while I was cooking." And that was my national television debut in 2011. But Food Network wise, from MasterChef, I stayed in touch with one of their casting directors who ended up casting for Cutthroat Kitchen 3 years later. So in 2014, I made my first appearance on Food Network on the show Cutthroat Kitchen. And then 2015, I actually made it onto the cast of season 11 of Food Network Star. And that was, of course, the big one. Food Network Star was really Food Network's biggest reality competition show, long format. The whole point was to give the winner of the show their own show on Food Network. Guy Fieri won season 2 of Food Network Star. That's what launched his career with Food Network, and so I was on season 11 of that show and did really well. You know, everything that I had learned from MasterChef and over the next 4 years, I really applied. I had been doing a food radio show that whole time and really learning how to write about food, talk about food, be on camera with food, and also honing my cooking skills a lot. And so when Food Network Star came along, I really had a good run, and I ended up finishing runner up on that season of Food Network Star, and then had a pilot for my own show air. We filmed it for Food Network, but then I got passed around a little bit and it ended up airing on Travel Channel, but unfortunately never got picked up from there. And then 2018, I was on Chopped Grill Master. Well, it was the Chopped Gold Medal Games that aired during the Winter Olympics of 2018, but I was on the grilling episode. And then I got to go head to head with Bobby Flay in 2019, and I beat him at a crawfish boil because I got to call the shots on that one a little bit more once I got through the first round. The whole point is you challenge Bobby to your signature dish, so I challenged him to a crawfish boil, and I beat him.
And you told him you can't put Fresno chilies in crawfish boil.
That's right.
Walk me through, just because it's for little semi-selfish purposes, Cutthroat Kitchen. Is it as crazy as it looks?
Yes is the answer to that. Alton Brown was really cool. I enjoyed working with him. It's first and foremost a game show. So, fortunately I've done enough of those shows now. I've been on enough of them. I've seen how they work from behind the scenes. And my advice to anybody going on any of those, especially shorter format competition shows like Cutthroat, Guys Grocery Games, Chopped, Beat Bobby Flay, is just don't take it too seriously. It is a game show almost more than it's a cooking show. You cook, but especially in Cutthroat, the whole point is that they sabotage your cooking, that they mess with it. They give you restrictions that make it to where you're not putting your best dish forward. And that's really the point of the show. And there were multiple times throughout Food Network Star and other shows that I've been on where I've heard producers talking about that it is the Food Network, not the Chef Network, that they really they want to make good food content, but they're not worried about it being the absolute stunning culinary masterpiece like what you might get more often on Top Chef on Bravo or something like that. They want it to be more approachable. They're trying to dumb it down so that home cooks can feel like they can play in that playground. So anyway, Cutthroat was absolutely bizarre. I got through the first round making minestrone in nothing but a coffee pot. I had a glass pitcher coffee pot,
Hmm.
and that was my only cooking vessel. I could not use any other pots or pans or anything else. And I was just scared that I was going to have that coffee pot on a burner and it was going to shatter and I wasn't going to have anything to turn in.
Yeah.
Um, so I just had to keep the heat on low and build my entire minestrone in a coffee pot. But I also got put in like a 5 minute timeout during that challenge. But I pretty much had all my ingredients in the coffee pot and I had it on a simmer already, so there wasn't a whole lot for me to do. And
Yeah.
my timeout just consisted of, well, I was in a cheese grating competition and my cheese grater snapped in half, which was intentional, right? Like that was a sabotage as well, just because they wanted to see what happened. And then I ended up getting put into a timeout thing, but that just meant hanging out with Alton Brown for 5 minutes while I couldn't be cooking. But I already had pretty much everything in my coffee pot and it was on a simmer. So I kind of got away with that one. Somebody else had to try to make their minestrone using nothing but a Keurig coffee machine, little one pot coffee machine, as their only heat source. So like they had to just run water through a Keurig machine to try to get it to a boil and
Yeah.
cook a minestrone that way. So they got eliminated in the first round. Then the second round, I had to make falafel, and I
Hmm.
had to. They staged it to where I got a sabotage that was I had to give up all of my chickpeas and chickpea products. I had pulled out a chickpea flour, and they didn't let me keep that either. And they replaced it with what they said was the leftover minestrone from the first round. It was just a staged version of it for
Yeah.
health reasons, but I had to pull all of the chickpeas for my falafel out of a used minestrone, basically. And then halfway through, I had to hold hands with another chef, and then my falafel blew up in the deep fryer. And I really should have pan fried it or something. Like that was I made some mistakes there. I should have outbid the other person for the hand holding sabotage. So I didn't have to do that. And then I should have pan fried my soggy falafel, but it blew up in the deep fryer. And I just had these like shards of my breading from the falafel. So I plated that with a cucumber yogurt sauce and called it falafel cracklins. But I got kicked off.
So,
Like I said, it's a game show.
yeah.
There was nothing to hang my head out about that. Uh, it's meant to be sabotages, and it's a game. Like you want to win the game by all means. Like you're there to win the game, but it really says nothing about your cooking ability.
Yeah. Well, and a little of its personality. And I've had conversations and done watch parties with some of the barbecue shows, some of the folks that are on barbecue shows, and he's like, I won't mention names or shows, but there was a particular piece of the dish that was on the dish when he turned it in, but it went behind the barn and disappeared before judging. And he said, I was raising hell with the guy, and he said, it's TV, baby. And it's part of it,
Yeah.
and it's an entertainment thing. It's supposed to be entertaining.
Yeah, without a doubt, with any of those shows, don't forget that what everybody else is there, that's not a contestant, is there to do is create a television show. And they need drama, they need a
Mhm.
hook, they need characters. And if you're a contestant on one of those shows, you are one of their characters. I always try to be very true to myself. I feel like, Chopped and Cutthroat Kitchen and Beat Bobby Flay are just one episode at a time. But Food Network Star aired throughout. It was 11 episodes. That my season was 2015, and it aired throughout the summer of 2015. And uh, I had to remember, every one of those episodes, every time there's cameras rolling, like they can use any of those clips anywhere they want to. So try not to say anything you don't want to make it on a national television, and try to be true to yourself.
Yeah.
And fortunately for me, on that show, I went in with a very positive attitude. I went in to have fun. I really kind of told myself the prize for winning that show is your own show on Food Network. So if you're not enjoying the Food Network star experience, you're probably not going to enjoy having your own show on Food
Yeah.
Network either. So just have fun, enjoy
Yeah.
it, try to be relaxed. I mean, there are things that they do on a reality show to try to make you stressed, to try to
Mhm.
put you in a situation where it's not the most comfortable thing. Uh, so you just have to try to have fun with that and understand that there's a lot of people that would want the opportunity that you have. So
Oh yeah.
enjoy the ride.
Oh, 100%. And I've done the preliminary stuff several times for a couple of different barbecue shows, and
Yeah.
I guess what probably too handsome is probably why they didn't pick me.
Yeah, yeah. They're
Uh,
they're looking for the ugly guys for the barbecue shows.
yeah. So I mean that's the only thing I can think of is it's like, you're like, yeah, that's too much to be on TV. Um,
I like your attitude, Wes. I do. Yeah, we're living in what really is maybe the golden age of barbecue competition shows. There were certainly some predecessors with the barbecue shows that really followed the competition barbecue
Pit
around, and
Masters and
yeah, pit masters and those kind of shows. But now they're really building out the sets, the outdoor sets for shows. I think season 2 of the Netflix show is about to launch
Mhm.
in May. Barbecue Brawl on Food Network, I think, is in their 3rd or 4th season.
Yeah.
And those are all just competition shows. That's one thing you have to remember. And I think a lot of pit masters really get hung up on those shows because they think they're going in and barbecuing, and like
Yeah.
it's not an overnight brisket smoke that they're asking you to do on those shows. They're,
Yeah.
they're going to give you 2 or 3 hours, so it's really grilling more than smoking or true barbecue. And they're also asking for sides and desserts, and then they're limiting you here or there. It's a similar type of competition, but they all look pretty fun. I would love to do one of those if given the opportunity, because I love outdoor cooking, and I love that style of
Yeah.
cooking. So they do look fun, and I've known quite a few people from the barbecue circles that have been on those shows. So it's they've been doing a good job of casting them as well.
Oh yeah. Well, I've got a friend of mine on his way back from Australia. Did meat stock and did that from he was on the American Barbecue Showdown and made it through probably half 3/4 of the way. James Grubbs,
Yep.
uh, James Barbecue Grubbs. He's actually a buddy of mine. He lives about 2.5 hours north of me, and him and a bunch of guys from South Africa were invited out to meet stock. So in Australia, they're all kind of in transit on the way back home now.
Nice.
Um, and that's one of those things you don't never know, who's going to see you, and what could happen. And that's been part of what's made you successful, I would imagine, with the traveling and eating gig you got.
Yeah, it's been a big part of it. Certainly, the years of blogging and radio and doing different Food Network shows and stuff have all helped me be able to do what I'm doing now. And what I'm doing now is really kind of more just whatever I want.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff in the influencer space. I'm about to start working on a second book. I have a Louisiana outdoor cooking cookbook out right now, but I'm about to start working on a second book. So that's going to take up a lot of my time. The travel is really just trying to get out of Louisiana and experience other foods and other cultures.
Yeah.
And bring my Louisiana flavors wherever I can with me. So I just finished a month-long jambalaya tour throughout the eastern United States.
Yeah, I was
And
severely upset about that. You came literally within about 45 minutes of my house, and I was like, I can't even go.
man,
And I'm from Louisiana as well, And
Yeah.
I'm like, if he's going here, I've never been to the spot that he's going. I said it must be good.
Well,
So,
wish you could have joined me, but that went really well, and I had some sponsorship from Slappy Mama Cajun Seasoning down in Louisiana, and the Louisiana Office of Tourism, and Explore Louisiana, and Lafayette Travel as well. And I'm looking at putting together basically another one in the fall,
mm-hmm.
but they want me to do a seafood gumbo tour. So
Okay.
I might be doing a Louisiana seafood gumbo tour in the fall, but I will probably either go north or west from Louisiana
Mm-hmm.
for that one. Go to a different part of the country, not come back up the eastern seaboard.
Yeah.
But it was a really cool trip because I got to partner with local breweries as I traveled,
Mm-hmm.
and took a big cast iron cauldron, a 15-gallon pot of jambalaya everywhere I went, and feed people. You know, it's a fun way to travel around and have different events set up, and then have a bunch of free time as well.
Yeah. It's you've created quite the employment opportunity for yourself for sure. Um, I was looking through all of your stuff on your social. I think it's on your website. It's like I've drank a beer here, I've drank a beer here, and it's like, I kind of like that. That's how you're describing what you're doing. You know, that I've worked in here, I've worked here, and it's just very interesting to see kind of what your outdoor cooking has turned into.
Well, yeah. Well, I appreciate that. It has certainly been a fun journey. I'm trying to do a whole lot more. That travel space is one that I'm really leaning into now, with
Mm-hmm.
doing some different travel advisor stuff for people that are interested in that. I'm helping organize and going on a bourbon trail trip this fall in Kentucky, so that should be a whole lot of fun. I'm currently working on organizing a trip. Not It won't be till April of next year,
Mm-hmm.
but a culinary trip to Mexico City.
Okay.
I'm trying to kind of dabbling in all that kind of stuff as well, and because there's as I travel, there's just been so many people reaching out to me saying they'd love to go on trips like this, or
Mm-hmm.
they'd love to be able to experience these kind of things with me, and I think there's a market for that.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I was, like I said, when I was perusing your website, I was like, oh, I literally can just tell him this is where I want to go, and like he's gonna, because he's a little more well traveled than the average guy,
Yeah.
and you're just gonna set up a whole experience for somebody, which is super fascinating. Um, but yeah, that's man, I'm quite jealous, quite jealous. Now, when you go your bourbon tour, when you go to Bardstown, Kentucky, I got plenty of tips and trips. We spent about a week up there in that area, about 6.5, 7 years ago, and
Nice.
did all the tours of all the different spots. And we actually just recently went back up and picked up our bottles of Maker's Mark from where we were did the ambassador with Maker's Mark.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited for that. I've been up through there, and been to a LSU football game in Lexington, and drove through some of those areas, and did a couple stops, but I haven't really just gone to that part of Kentucky specifically
Yeah.
for the Bourbon Trail. So I am looking forward to that. We're definitely going to do at least a couple days in Bardstown area, and a few days in Louisville itself.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, fantastic, man. I wanted to talk about, just for a quick moment here, um, Chef Jay Ducote. No formal training, correct?
Yep, that's right. Never attended culinary school, and really a lot of my experience is self-taught, and just
Mm-hmm.
going through the trials and tribulations myself through private dinners, pop-up restaurants, barbecue competitions,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Food Network shows, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I've dabbled in the restaurant world. I
Mm-hmm.
had a restaurant of my own for well, it's basically for 2 years in a food hall, and then the food hall shut down at the start of the pandemic, and then we opened a brick and mortar restaurant in 2020, and I was part of that until the end of 2022. So just walked away from all that. I had sold the companies, and then kind of said, all right, I'm done now, and I'm walking away at the end of last year. So that's what's freed me up to be able to travel a whole lot, as I don't actually have that restaurant in Baton Rouge anymore.
Yeah.
But so I do have some experience now in the professional cooking world, but I never went to culinary school or anything like that.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of highlight that because I perused and dug deep, and I was like, I think he's a like damn near a PhD doctorate from LSU, but as far as like any of the culinary everything is kind of self taught, which growing up in Louisiana, like I feel like there's way better cooks in Louisiana than there are in most places of the world, or most places in America. So it's a good place to learn for sure. But I wanted to highlight that just because you're not necessarily a trained chef, but you've trained with life experiences, and your life experiences have taken you, onto TV for God's sakes, and now you're traveling and eating for a living.
Yeah, I think it's been more about following a passion for me, and when fortunately doing degrees in economics and political science, like I learned how to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So once I found that passion for food and the real like desire that I had to learn more about food and culture and cooking, and the history of food and all those things, I just became a student of that,
Mm-hmm.
and that led me to a lot of really cool places down the road, with getting onto the TV shows and doing
Yeah.
everything else that I've done. But so a lot of it, a lot of it was a very academic self-taught about food and culture and different countries and food ways and how we all learned how to feed ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then part of it has been applying that through cooking. And a lot of the early cooking that I was doing was just home cooking for my blog.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I did MasterChef and a couple other shows like that, people wanted to eat the food that I was putting out on the blog. I would post something online, and create some recipe, and people would uh, comment on social media that they wanted to eat such things, and so then I really started. I mean, the cooking for people in a professional way, actually selling food that I was cooking, started as pop-ups at breweries and little wine stores and things like that, where I would
Yeah.
sell tickets in advance and then just do these pop-up dinners, and then it all just grew from there.
Yeah. So no urge to go back into a brick and mortar. You're just gonna be a wild pony, huh?
Yeah, I my hats off to the restaurant people out there. It is a tough gig, and it is I mean it's a labor of love. It's a lot of hard work. It's and to me it it was really about just having to be there every day.
Yeah.
It is a restaurant that takes leadership, that takes ownership, that takes somebody with that passion to be there every day, leading that brigade. And some people, I think, want that routine. They want that
Mhm.
stability. They want that place to go to work every day and do what they love. Uh, but for me, it felt like it was a trap. It felt uh, like I want to travel, I want to see the world, I want to
Yeah.
do all these other things, but with a restaurant, like I can't.
Yeah.
If I'm the person that's getting called when something goes wrong, I can't be that far away all the time,
Yeah.
uh, and I found it. There were things that were somewhat easy to delegate, and then there were things that were really difficult to delegate.
Yeah.
I could see myself getting back involved in the restaurant world as a restaurateur, as a proprietor of sorts, as somebody who, is part of an
Build.
ownership group and comes up with ideas and creates menus and stuff. But I don't ever want to be the person that like is getting called at night when the alarm's going off, or that has the phone call that's like the dishwasher didn't show up, so we're short.
Yeah.
Can you come wash dishes?
Yeah. Right. So, like the fun part of the restaurant business is the building the menu and the creating the menu and the flavors and all that stuff. That's definitely, I think it'd be a lot of fun to do that for sure.
Yeah.
And a whole lot better than being the guy that's coming in to wash dishes, or the guy that's shucking corn or whatever in the back.
Yep. And I've done that. I spent quite a few hours, days, months shucking corn in the back of that taco shop. So and then yeah, I don't. I'm in no hurry to do that again for sure.
That's fair. That's fair. So kind of talk to me about where Jay is headed next.
Well, literally next is a seafood po' boy pop up this Thursday in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, and then I'm off to the Dominican Republic for 10 days. I'm helping organize some culinary restaurant tours in Santo Domingo. Then I'm going up into the mountains in rural Dominican Republic to visit some coffee farms, and then I'll be on the beach in Las Terrenas for a few days. And that'll be great. Then I'm back in the States, and I'll work my way back to Louisiana in June, and then I've got all sorts of other stuff planned for the summer. I'll be up at a conference in Wisconsin, and then taking the Amtrak through Minnesota and North Dakota and Montana. So that should be a fun trip. But the travel component of what I'm working on is a big part of it. Certainly, I'll get back to some private dinners and barbecue and things like that in Louisiana. I've got a smoker in my backyard that I can cook 24 briskets at a time on. So I do some brisket cooks every now and then. That's the pit master side of me. But I'll do some of that when I am back home. But then I'm working on that seafood gumbo tour for the fall, and just trying to figure it all out from there. I think the steps that I'm making in the travel world with different trips that I'm planning, or that people are asking me to advise them on, is something that I really hope to be building and gaining some momentum with, because it's also something that I can do from anywhere. And I think that's a big part of my goal right now, is to kind of figure out the elements of my career that I can just take with me, that I can essentially work remotely, because then I can go anywhere I want and stay self-employed, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So, what are you cooking on in the backyard? What kind of a smoker we got back there?
So it's a custom built big tank on its side, but it's a offset reverse flow large steel pipe
Okay.
type smoker. It's not branded though. It was custom welded for a barbecue shop in Baton Rouge that when they closed down, they needed to get rid of it, and I was able to get a tow truck to bring it to my backyard.
There you go. That's a win.
Yeah.
That's a win. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time. I want to definitely thank you for hanging out with me, and hope we can do this again, and maybe even in person.
Yeah. Well,
one day.
good talking to you as well, Wes. I thank you for everything that you're doing with the smoke ring, and getting the word out about barbecue and everything that you've got going on. So
Yeah,
much
absolutely, man.
appreciated.
Well, it's the barbecue lifestyle, and I said, this guy's doing outdoor cooking, and that's turned into something in and of itself. And I thought, you know what, he may never respond when I shoot him a message, or we may be sitting here talking, and here we are.
Well, I'm glad we are. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time and the opportunity to chat with you.
Absolutely, man. Thank you, man.
Cheers.
Bye bye. All right, man. We're signing off.
All right, dude. Appreciate it.
All right, bye-bye. And that'll put this week's episode of the Smoke Ring Syndicate in the books. Shout out to my guest this week, Chef Jay Ducote from Louisiana. If you've enjoyed this episode, I would appreciate a review and share this with your friends and family that may find value in it. And until next time, keep smoking.